It's Taste of Country Nights with Evan Paul on demand, season 3, episode 8 with Jon Langston. What can we expect to hear on this new album, man?
On this album, you're going to hear all different influences of, country, rock, hip hop, pop, all this stuff. I love everything. So I'm going to have everything in my music. I ain't ashamed to say any of that. I'm down for whatever.
And we're glad to have Jon Langston on this episode of Taste of Country Nights on Demand. Just a reminder, the latest guests here at Taste of Country Nights on Demand, Lady A, the Bellamy Brothers, Gene Watson, Connor Smith, Kenny Chesney, all your favorite country artists. They always stop by here. Taste of Country Nights on Demand. This podcast is part of the Town Square Media Podcast Network. Hanging out with Jon Langston today, man. How's it going?
It's going, buddy. How you?
Good, man. First, your debut album, 10 years into the game, in an age of streaming and singles and TikTok, Tank Top, and all that stuff. What does it mean to you to drop a full-length album?
It's finally, in fruition. It's finally here. You said 10 years, and I feel like it's been a lifetime for this. I started putting out music when I was in college, and to be able to put out a full length record for the first time, I feel like, the fan, I'm giving this to the fans that have been sticking it with me for so long, and finally confident enough in my sound and my music and my story to share it with the world. And I'm just really proud of it, man. It tells, I've been doing a lot of growing, healing, and learning over these years, and that's, putting my heart on ice, and that's what I've been doing. So I'm just excited for it, man.
Do you get a Toby Keith, how do you like me now type attitude, to anybody that over the past 10 years they were like, man, you're not going to pull out a full-length album, and then you're like, boom.
I don't know if it's more of the how do you like me now, but I feel like it's all right, I'm ready now. I feel like it's more okay.
Vindication.
It's time. It's time now. I got you. You know what I mean?
What were you, give me your, up to this point, your best day in Nashville and your worst day in Nashville to get you here? When did you think about making a U-turn and taking it back home? And when did you think about, man, I'm here?
When I'd have to say, playing the record, in front of the whole label a few weeks ago, and telling my story in between songs, and just seeing everyone there and everyone locked in and everyone hearing my heart and stuff. That was when I was all right, I'm here and I'm ready now. Let's go. And I'm not going to lie, there's been a few times where I'm is this even what I'm supposed to do? Is this even what I want to do anymore? Especially coming out of COVID. I didn't know what was going to happen. I was really down on myself. I was going through some stuff, and I was just man, what am I, is this even right to just keep pursuing this dream? And I even sold a few guitars because I was just I was down in the dumps, man. I didn't even, feel like that was where I was needing to run. And I'm glad I didn't quit. I'm glad I didn't, found myself again, bought back those guitars. And
you got the
I got it back. Yeah, I got back that.
Did you pay more than you sold it for?
About broke even. So,
okay.
So I mean, I had to probably do some, trade another guitar in there just to break even. But
it's guitar B&B.
It was worth it, man. It was, that guitar. I wrote a lot of songs on that guitar, especially on this album, and I have never told that story, so that's pretty cool. That I probably need to talk about that more because it's really cool. I made my Opry debut with that guitar, and it's just that guitar means a lot to me. And but yeah, man, I'm glad I didn't quit. I'm glad I stuck it out and followed my heart, really, because I was just following my head at that time. So,
well, how did you sell it, and who'd you sell it to that you were able to get it back?
Well, it was a guitar shop in town,
and they didn't resell it.
It was so I would be walking by it all the time, and it was sitting in the window.
Wow,
it was just staring me in the face, what are you doing, man?
Wow.
So, and then one day I was just I ain't quitting, and I walked in there and got it back.
Wow, good for you, man. Thanks, good for you. And you wrote all but 3 songs on this album?
All but 3. Yeah.
Is there was that intentional? Are you man, I got to get some outside songs?
Man, it just happened naturally. Hard on Ice, what the album is titled. I had the record done, and I knew there was a theme. I knew it, but I didn't know what it was until I heard Hard on Ice, my tour manager. He's in publishing as well. So he slid me this song, and I was like, man, this sounds amazing. And then it just kind of hit me. I'm like, all these songs relate to that Hard on Ice theme, like whether it's, growing, healing, whatever, stopping in time and just, focusing on yourself or like others or whatever it may be. So I was like, man, this is the missing puzzle piece. So it happened natural like that, but also like I feel other songs I've written on this album with other co-writers. We were at a writer's retreat, and one of the co-writers was just playing a demo. It was just like an acoustic thing, and I was like, "Oh, buddy, I'm cutting the heck out of that one." And it was just like I didn't even know what I was going to make it sound like. I just loved the message. It had this cool feeling, and I love the melody, and I love what it was saying because I've been there before. And it's called "Never Left Me," and I did not write that song, but Jordan Gray, he was playing me that demo, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I love this song." And it fits the album great. And we did a really cool intro. We kept the original intro that was on the demo. It was really cool.
Nice. I think guys, our generation, our granddads give us a watch.
Yeah.
I think it was so. Is Granddaddy's watch based off a real true story?
A real true story, man. I should have put it on today. But I try to keep it, hung up, whenever I can. But yeah, he gave it to me when I was in middle school, and my granddad, he's my hero, the guy I look up to, who I want to be one day. And he, being in middle school, I was just throwing it around there, I lost it eventually, and I couldn't find it for years, and I ended up finding it in a drawer, in a nightstand drawer that he actually built when I was like a kid.
Wow.
It was really cool because like it was in my childhood bedroom. I took it to college with me. I took it to Nashville with me, and now it sits in my studio.
Wow.
And I was cleaning out the studio, and I just found it, and then I was like going to do my Grand Ole Opry debut, and I put it on and, had it shined up and looking good for that, and it was just like he was there with me. It's a special song, man. It's one of my favorites on the album.
What traits did you get from him?
Oh, man. We both love cigars. But man, he's just a good old boy from Georgia, and he's a family guy. He tried, I'm working on it, I think we all can try to be wise with our money, but he always like just embedded that in me, just be careful with how I'm spending money, especially when I started doing music. He was always freaking out. Excuse me. How I was if I was doing well and if I was being wise with it.
Got it. Yeah.
So I was definitely, always conscious of that. And man, we love the outdoors. We love fishing. I got that from him. So it's awesome.
What musical influences will we be able to hear on Hard on Ice?
Oh man, I'm from a town where we listen to everything. So I mean, on this album, you're going to hear all different influences of, country, rock, hip hop, pop, all this stuff. I love everything. So like, I'm going to have everything in my music. I ain't ashamed to like say any of that. I'm down for whatever. And, but Hard on Ice, it just has this like, it'll make you bob your head. And it's just like great song live. We started playing it live a few weeks ago, and it's hard and it's a fun song to play live. So it's got some cool influence.
In the album, is there like a hint of, is there a song that would point to a direction that you're going to go next?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I feel like I can go either way all the time. I feel like, I feel like me as an artist, I've always said this, like each song I have has its own like personality, has its own way. I will never have one specific thing. I guess I'll never have like, oh, that's definitely like, I'm going to go that way. Like, I feel like it's whatever the song is. Like, I never want to have one song sound like the other. I feel like each of my songs are going to have its own signature.
Okay. Not like, like if you used to listen to like a Britney Spears album back in the day, it was all same. Okay. Yeah. So you don't want to be like that.
Yeah. Like I got a song, I Ain't Country, I did with Travis Denning. We both love like, heavy music. And so we put some we got some double kick drums and we got these slinging metal guitars in there, and it's awesome. It just makes you want to go get a neck brace at the Dadgo merch table. Yeah.
Are you and Travis good friends?
We're good friends, man.
Give me a story where y'all got into some trouble.
Oh man, I could sit here all day and tell you about some crazy stuff, but me and him came up together. Moved to town around the same time, and he's just been a great friend of mine over the years, and we played so many shows together. We've thank you so much, and we go fishing together. We go hunting together, and it's just cool to be able to for my debut album have a buddy like that on it, and to share that. It's really cool.
And that's your only feature on the album?
The only feature, yep.
Who has been an ally for you in country music other than Luke Bryan and Rhett Akins?
Another man, I'll tell you, I've got Cole Swindell's been a great friend of mine, and he's took me out on tour before, and he's gave me advice along the way. Coming up, we did a whole tour together years ago, and man, it's cool, so awesome to see where he's at, and I looked up to him so much, still do look up to him, man. It's just I remember I was just before I even got started, I was at it, I just stumbled in his showcase down in Atlanta, and remember him playing Beer in the Headlights, and I was just singing every word because I was such a fan, had it on my burnt CD. I had all these demos of his, and and just to be able to learn from him and get advice from him in my own journey is really cool.
And same with Luke Bryan. Is there more pressure being his only artist on 32 Bridge?
Yeah.
Does he hit you up all the time? What are you doing, Bo?
He'll check it. Let me tell you something. Luke Bryan, he's one of the greatest guys I ever met. He'll do anything for you. He'll stop anything, just check on you and just make sure you're doing good. He just wanted to make sure I'm making the music I want. And that's why I signed with him and UMG. He was like, do whatever you want. You're the artist. You're the creative. You do you. And we ain't going to tell you how to do it. And that's why I signed. I wasn't even going to, sign, I guess, because I was loving being independent and, cutting what I wanted to cut. And that's what he promised me. And this album, I literally went in and cut what I wanted. It was awesome.
All right, we did some deep digging on you, and we found a fact that not many people may know or they may not know. You're related to Johnny Cash.
And somewhat, I guess. It was a family rumor for a long time, and of course, I'm like, no, there's no way. And we actually had a genealogist make our family history book, and it was really cool to go through and everything. It goes way, way back, but there it is, cited and everything that Johnny Cash is related to my grandma on my mom's side. It's pretty crazy.
What does that get you? Can you get into Johnny Cash museums for free? Do you get free merch?
I don't know if I should just bring that book next time and just be like, here, I swear.
Did anything change on that day when you found out that you were related to Cash?
Oh, no. I still had to work twice as hard. No, I just think it was really cool because I was such a doubter, and I was like, there's no way. So that's funny. Yeah.
Football season in full swing. You used to play football. Who's your squad?
Man, go Dogs. I grew up 30 minutes from Athens, so I've always been a big Dogs fan, and all my family goes there, and my brother just graduated from there, and we love Athens.
Are you? I can tell if you're a true Dogs fan. Are you disappointed that they didn't goose egg the other team this past weekend? They let them score 7, even though they won.
Yeah, first game. Hey, it's gonna happen.
It was 40-something to 7.
You're gonna make some adjustments.
Dogs fans are pissed.
I know I'm not that kind of fan.
Okay,
I'm like, dude, we won by 30-something points. Take the W. Take the win.
Do you think you would how high up would you have gone? Would you have made it pro, you think?
No, I wouldn't have made it pro. I was I was significantly under the I guess, the size requirements. I'm not the biggest, fastest, strongest guy, but I feel like what got me to play D1 ball is just my work ethic, and I just worked to get there. And, I had too many concussions playing ball, and that's what got me into music. But, yeah, I knew that, like, I had no aspiration of going to the NFL. I just wanted to go. My goal was to go play D1 ball and go get a degree and stuff, but yeah.
Do you know, like, when you have a concussion, like, how can you describe that to somebody?
It's like deja vu, and there's a couple of different types, but I will say my last one was the one where I knew I was done.
Like, how you got hit? You're on the ground.
It was my first drill back from my my fifth concussion, and I was out for like a couple months, and I was feeling good. My first drill back, and we're doing inside drill, and that's where you just got half the line of scrimmage, and you got a running back, linebacker, and you got a fullback in front of there, and you got a DN and a tackle. And, we just ran right up the middle, and I met that fullback head on, and it was just like I had him perfectly, but he just hit me perfectly, and I dropped to my knees, and I was blind for like 15 minutes, and I was scared to death, and I thought I hit myself blind, and finally, eventually, my vision came back. It was like, when you close your eyes, you can tell that it's light outside. But that's how it felt. I felt my eyes were open. But it was the scariest moment, and we got rushed to the hospital. And then we did CAT scan and all that, and just had another bad concussion. And I went and had a meeting with my coaches and the trainer, and we were like, yeah, I'm just going to hang it up. And that's what happened.
Are you more cautious with life in general now or no?
No, not really. I just, I'm not like headbutting anybody no more. But
that's cool, man.
It was a fun run playing football, but I don't really think it's affected me. You hear about all these stories, CTE and stuff like that, and I've gone to the doctor before, and it's just one of them things. Just I had a few more than I should have in college, but hey, I'm living a happy, healthy life now. So,
and we all had a few more than we should in college.
Yeah.
Might not be concussions.
But it could have been something cold.
Well, congrats, bro, on your album coming out, man. Big fan. Thank you so much for stopping by. All right, let's bring in Billy Dukes from behind the camera to talk about this interview here with Jon Langston, Carolina boy.
I'm going to ask you a heater right off the bat.
Ooh, yes.
All right, you talked about his song, Granddaddy's Watch. Mm-hmm. Do you have a personal memento from a loved one lost that you cherish in a similar way?
I sure do. Yes. So I have this necklace. My grandfather was a jeweler. So I have this really thick gold necklace that he gave me. He's still alive. He's 99, by the way. But I took my diamond ring from my father who passed away, and I took the diamond out, and I had it meshed into the necklace. And then I took some other gold that my dad had that I got and melted it down and added it to the necklace to make it a little longer. So it's a memento of my dad and my grandpa in one necklace.
Wow. That's
I got to tell you. Didn't expect that.
I didn't. And when it comes to these kind of things, I am like the polar opposite. Like I don't know if there's literally anything that I wouldn't sell if the price was right. And part of the reason for this is because like a lot of the things that get passed down to me are like big things, like old antique furniture. And
okay.
Like, you've moved from town to town. When you start moving that couch like a fourth, fifth time, it's like, you'll give me $1,000 for it? Yeah, I think if we're gonna do that,
that's fair. That's fair. I agree with you, but I feel like I agree with Langston though on this. I think when it comes to like jewelry, I don't know, it's a little different for me, but I'm with you on that. I would be really quick to sell like a TV or something like that, but I mean, I don't know. I'm sitting on my dad was like in the mafia, and I don't know. But he wore a lot of gold back in the 80s and 90s. I'm sitting on like ID bracelet that's like a chunk of gold that it says Murray on it. That I don't want to sell it, but like I don't want to wear it, and then I don't want to like melt it down. So like, what do you do with something like that? I guess you write a song. That's like something you write a song about, I guess.
Should we just kind of let my dad was in the mafia line just kind of go by, or do we need to stop and kind of explore that a little bit? Like, I feel
all I know is
we know why.
All I know is he got in trouble for selling land that was kind of underwater in the Florida Everglades. And then
really,
there was another instance where they were selling racehorses. I don't know too much about I don't know.
Well, I can kind of relate to this actually with my grandfather, because he was in an auto adjacent industry in Detroit in like the 60s and 70s. And I'm pretty sure at some point he kind of came up against or like talked to Hoffa, or someone just 1 or 2 steps removed from Hoffa.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that. So now if I were you, I would be like, close relative to Jimmy Hoffa.
I don't know because then I got people asking me questions, and I don't know. I'm going to say,
just pick a random house in Michigan and be like, that's where he is.
That's it. That's where he is. Jon Langston, I really enjoyed this conversation. He's kind of been around for a better part of a decade, and I think he kind of came up as like Luke Bryan's boy. This was like the first artist that Luke Bryan put his arm around and really tried to help. He even created a record label and signed Jon Langston to it as part of like UMG. It was like a little imprint, as they call it. And what was interesting to me was how he was talking about he really struggled during the pandemic, just like every new artist. Like Luke wasn't there to sort of catch him. And the selling his guitar, like when an artist sells his guitar, that's always a really big deal.
Yeah, man, that was like tough to listen to him say that, because I know how much of a big deal it is, because you hear of all these artists that are playing these guitars from the 60s and 70s, and you can't match the sound. And God, when he said that, man, that hit me like, I hate to say it, but that hit me almost like he was telling me he had to give his kid up for adoption.
I think it kind of feels that sort of way to artists. Yeah. Artists who haven't had kids anyway, like that's a sort of a line in the sand sort of moment. So it's surprising that he not only got it back, but he went on to record an album, presumably with the guitar and others. Yeah.
Now, if you're him, do you wonder where that guitar was and the trek that it took when you dropped it off at summer camp, if you will, and then picked it back up? Or do you just play it like you never had lost it?
Well, the way he told the story sort of makes it seem like he sold it to the guitar shop or the pawn shop, and it never sold to anybody else, so he was able to just sort of go back in and buy it. Right? That's kind of how
Nobody wanted it, huh?
Yeah. Like they didn't advertise it as Jon Langston's guitar, I guess, but that was kind of how I understood that. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. You got to wonder how many pawn shops have guitars in them around Nashville, too. That's probably a big thing.
Sort of the double-edged sword about being an artist who is coming up under another artist's mentorship is it seems like it would just really ratchet up the expectations. Like if you're Jon Langston and Luke Bryan's your mentor, like anything less than Luke Bryan level of success, especially early on, that has to kind of feel like you're not doing well or you're failing to some degree.
That is an interesting angle. And like, I would put that through the angle of like, do you give someone a job reference, and that's tough. I don't like to do that, because then you're almost responsible for that person, and their behavior and what they do. So, to tenfold to what you said, because now Luke Bryan signed you and Luke Bryan's name is on the line. And, granted, if Jon Langston doesn't do well, it's not going to affect Luke Bryan's career, but it's certainly going to be a blemish, when people, get under the hood and write about it and reminisce about it, for sure. That's a lot of pressure on both artists. Which one would you say is more pressure on, Luke Bryan or Jon Langston?
Oh, Jon Langston. Because if Jon Langston goes away or fails, then he's still Luke Bryan. He's still got his career in American Idol and all of that. If Luke
But there's going to be articles where it's like that time Luke Bryan tried, blah, blah, blah. I'm thinking that because I would write it.
I think, Luke Bryan will just be the next guy. And everybody will kind of may look up one day and go, oh, whatever happened to that one dude?
Yeah.
Other artists have had sort of artists under their like, I think Dustin Lynch sort of really worked hard with an artist named Tyler Rich, who was a really cool artist on one of the Big Machine labels at some point. And I think he's kind of faded away to a certain degree, but no one's like, hey, Dustin Lynch, remember that one guy you worked with? That didn't work out. Wah, wah. I don't think anybody holds that against Dustin in any sort of way.
Yeah. No, you're right.
A lot of a Carolina connection here with you and Jon Langston. Early on, it was fun listening to sort of like the pre-recording conversation. You guys were talking about the origin of the word bra. Like you might say, oh, bra. Come on, tell me about it, or something like that. Like, apparently that's a Carolina thing. Is that true?
Yeah, I deleted that part of the interview, but yes. Yeah. A little bit, yeah. There's not too much things that Carolina we have, other than that we're first in flight and bruh and the Panthers, and we don't really like the hockey team. I think it just kind of happens. The Carolina Hurricanes, and that's about it. Oh, and UNC Chapel Hill and Duke and all that. But yeah, brah, that's kind of the origin of that. And anytime someone comes in from your home state, it's like I was like ready to jump right in. It was when I was chopping up the interview to upload it here to the podcast. I was like, it was tough to chop that part out. I was like, man, I didn't want to talk to him about other stuff. I was like, oh, let's just talk about North Carolina.
I think really you nailed it too. Like when it comes to the things that Carolina's known for, like your top three are First in Flight, Bra, and the Carolina Panthers. Like that's probably the top three. Like you ask anybody, they're going to give you that answer. I think pretty much.
I think so. And as my wife likes to say, because she's from New Jersey, she likes to say first in flight, last in education. But, I don't think that's the truth.
Jersey people giving Carolina people a hard time.
Right. I feel like that's like the bullied beating up on the bullied.
It's like, people miserable together.
Yeah, misery needs company, man.
One of my favorite questions that you've been asking artists lately is this best and worst day in Nashville question, because it's kind of an open-ended question, but it's really produced some great answers. Obviously, with Jon Langston, we talked about selling his guitar, but I don't know. There's been other examples where people have kind of really shared something that maybe people haven't talked about before.
Here's what I'll say about that. That is a tough question to answer, and the only reason I know that is because in an upcoming episode that you're going to hear at Taste of Country Nights on Demand with Keith Urban, I asked him that question, and he turned it on me immediately. And that is a tough, heavy question to answer in a short amount of time, because you literally have to flip through your mental Rolodex, and the first couple things that lands on, it's almost like roulette in a sense, because it is tough, because what if Langston leaves here and is like, well, oh yeah, that's not my worst day, is actually this. It's just a tough question off the top of the head, and I think it's good. It gets the artists thinking about it and reminiscing about the past, whether good and bad.
So I think I'm going to push back on that just a little bit, in that I think when someone asks you that, like what your worst day in Nashville is, you instantly think of the answer. And then it's a question of, can I share this? Like, is this an answer I'm willing to tell this person? So, we asked this question fairly early on. Maybe we need to bury it a little later in the interview after you've kind of already established some trust and a rapport, and they might get a little bit of a... It's kind of like asking, if you and your wife are out for dinner and someone asks you who your first love is, you're going to think about who that first love was, but you're going to say your wife, whether or not it is the truth. You know what I mean?
Oh,
like it
hell,
could be
yeah.
Mary Jo in 6th grade or something like that, but you're not going to say that unless you know you have that person's trust, right?
100%. 100%. Yeah. You
And
nailed
that's why
that.
I think when Keith Urban, we asked him that question, we'll get to his answer, which is really, really good. Like, he bought himself some time by asking you what yours was, and then he thought of an actual worst day that he could actually share. Because when you talk about Keith, you start to get in some issues of his addiction and some of these issues he had, and those probably are his worst days, but the degree to which he wants to go into that 5 minutes in an interview, I'm not so sure. Ask that question to Jelly Roll if you haven't already. He'll give you a raw answer.
Oh, yeah, he sure will. I'm going to ask the question to everybody. When I roll up to Dunkin' Donuts, I'm going to ask the lady at the drive-thru.
Yeah, I think so.